All right, here we are on the next episode of our family history podcast, or whatever you want to call it. And we're talking about LeRoy Hansen's life. And um, seems like the last thing that they got to work in Salt Lake, posting like paper. What do you call those? The wallpaper and painting walls and stuff like that.
It was a paper man. What was it called? Yeah, something like that.
I can't remember what they
On
call it.
paper.
Yeah, they just put up paper. Um, well, I've skimmed through the next little section and it looks really interesting. And so I wonder what year I think we figured out that this was around, 1929. So the Great Depression was in full swing.
Yeah.
And they had just gone up to, they like went up to help build a highway as like a stonemasons. And I think they went up to Island Park, Idaho. So and it says, it was a pretty nice summer we spent up there. Dad had another mason working with him, and I had a truck driver that would help me haul the rock over to where they were laying the stone wall up. By the way, Dad was a very good stonemason and did a beautiful job. I'd mix the mud and carry it in buckets down to where they were working, and they'd lay up these stone head walls on the culverts. It was quite a nice experience. The money I got then was $4 a day, and Dad got $6. We had our board and room. Oh, and we had our board and room. So they were taken care of.
Yeah.
Up in Island Park. Now our room consisted of a tent and sleeping cots. Let's okay.
Board and room, but it's a tent. And
no, it's a tent. We just lived in a tent the whole year, or the whole summer.
Wow.
We ate in a community boarding house called The Last Chance. The Last Chance is still there, and it's right at the North Fork of the Snake River. And I tried to find a picture of it, and I couldn't find one. But some sort of community dining thing for the employees that were building the freeway or something.
Yeah, interesting.
We spent the summer there and got along reasonably well. The one thing that we did just for fun was write notes down of the current events of what was going on worldwide, and we'd seal it up and stick it in these head walls where we were working. So they hid notes in the, I don't know if it was in the rocks or like in the rafters. I don't know what the head walls are. We'd finish them off on top, and I left my initials on the top of these head walls. There were about a dozen of these head walls through that Island Park area that have my initials on them, especially the ones that overlook the upper falls as you drive out of the viewpoint. Dad and I finished our job up there about the middle of October and came back to Salt Lake.
Oh, a head wall or an end wall is an integrated wall located at either end of a drainage pipe. You know, those big old like where it goes under a bridge, and then there's like the cement. It's like the end cap piece.
Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently.
Okay. So it's probably more in the rock or in the cement or something.
Interesting.
I've never been to Island Park. Yeah, cool to go up there.
Yeah.
At least that I know of. I don't think I've ever been there. Through the years, we Hansen boys have always been real interested in fishing and hunting. I have accumulated a few guns. One of them was a 410 pistol. So I don't know what a 410, and anyway, I don't know what that is. I looked it up and I couldn't figure that out. We had a 410 single barrel and a 410 double barrel. Somehow I managed to buy a Remington Model 11 12-gauge shotgun. It was used, but I still have it. So I thought that I might start my own gun collection. So,
wow. Yeah, I'm not sure. Go ahead.
A 410 single barrel. I wonder what that is. 4-10.
Yeah, I'm looking. There's just a whole bunch of random things. Like this is probably what it looks like. Let's see. Share. Single shot, or I think it was J.
Oh
Stephen
yeah,
Smith or 410 pistol.
yeah, hmm,
But what else I was seeing is just there's so much of it. I don't know. It's probably one of these.
yeah, something like that. Huh. All right. Well, interesting. I wonder who inherited that. I've got
Yeah,
spring.
yeah. It's probably
When
something
we,
like this. It's
oh
cool.
yeah, probably something like that. Yeah. When we came home from Idaho, we found out that Dad's sister, Aunt Annie, who still lived in Gridley, California, was seriously ill and and they had her taken to San Francisco to the hospital. After a little deliberation, Mother and Dad and I decided we would pack up my model 1930 Ford and go to Gridley. Now remember, it took us 3 months to come from Gridley in a covered wagon. So they're going back to California. On this trip, we left Whitlock Avenue at 4 o'clock in the morning and headed west through Nevada. Of course, there was no road maps.
Oh my gosh! You
They
just
didn't have a
go.
map.
Just follow the sun.
Yeah, head west.
Dang.
That's wild. Okay. Oh, that sounds actually miserable. Um, so we headed west out through Nevada. Of course, there was no road maps. We didn't have much of an idea which town was ahead and how far it was. We knew it was about 700 miles back to Gridley on the Nevada road. So we drove and drove and drove. Mother had packed a big lunch, so we didn't stop for eating. We just kept driving. We got into Wells, I guess about 9 o'clock in the morning, and gassed up there. Mother asked the service station man how far it was to Reno, and he said it was 300 miles. I think I looked up Wells, and I think that's like where oh, I think that's just past Tooele, like at that one gas station that we've been to.
Uh, Maybe I see Wells, Nevada. That's past Wendover.
No, oh maybe. Well, 300 miles is still from probably Salt Lake area. Well,
300
is there
miles.
Wells, Utah, by Tooele County, something like that?
Yeah. Let's see. Um, where's Wells, Utah? Well,
It, it
Key.
doesn't. It doesn't exist anymore.
It got deleted. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so they said it was 300 miles to Reno. And she said, "Oh my goodness, we can never get to Reno today." He said, "Oh yeah, you can get to Reno today. It's still early and you can make it." It was November and it was colder than the Dickens. But anyway, we headed west out of Wells and we just kept it going. It was all gravel roads.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's Wells, Nevada. It's kind of in the center. Well, it's actually just west of Wendover. So they got past Wendover, then they went to Wells, and then it looks like Reno is actually, I didn't know this, but it's right kind of on a border of California. So they're wondering how long it would take from, it looks like about 300 miles from Wells to Reno. So yeah,
Oh wow. Yeah, so it's like the
yeah,
whole state. Holy
yeah.
man. And it's just gravel roads. That's crazy. Now it's like a 4-lane highway the whole way, probably, at least.
Yeah.
Um, it was all graveled roads. The only blacktop road were through the towns. We got into Reno that evening at 4 o'clock. So that's not too bad. I did all the driving. We decided it was too early to stop now, so we kept going up out of Reno and headed through the Sierras, up over Donner Summit. We must have almost got to the top by the time it got dark. And so we went on over the other side. I remember going down these narrow, windy roads, and trees were painted white so you could be sure to stay on the right side of the road. About 9 o'clock that night, I pooped out. I couldn't take it any longer. I knew that we should leave the main highway at Roseville, which was our destination. So we found a little side motel and asked the man how far it was into Roseville. He said quite a drive and we better stay there. So we got a room and went to bed. Well, we got up the next morning and had our breakfast and headed out down the road. We turned the corner and went right into Roseville. That guy had told us a fairy tale because we were in Roseville. We just took the main road and headed. So, so that guy tricked him to like
Wow.
make him leave.
Dang.
Well, I guess he needed a people to stay at his motel.
It's quite a drive.
It's quite a drive. You better stay here. We'll take
Jeez.
good care of you. Well, we got up the next morning, had our breakfast, and headed back on the road. We turned the corner and we were right in Roseville. That guy had told us a fairy tale because we were in Roseville. We took off the main road and headed into Gridley. Uncle Will and Aunt Annie's family knew we were coming. They were so happy to see us. We found out when we got into Gridley that Aunt Annie had been released from the hospital and was staying with her granddaughter in San Francisco, my cousin Levon and Clarence. We'd gotten into San Francisco the following day to get her and bring her home, so I tagged along. We left Gridley the next morning and headed to San Francisco in the automobile. I left mine for Dad in Gridley. Okay, so I guess somehow they split up. We went down through the country and got on a ferry boat to go over to San Francisco. Oh, so the Bay Bridge, is that what that's called? Wasn't built yet?
I guess not.
I'm not sure where we got on, but we may have been around Vallejo. I don't know what that is. We got into we put the automobile on this big boat. There must have been about 15 to 20 cars going at once. As they started across the bay, Levon, Clarence, and I went upstairs to the wheelhouse where there was a cafe and coffee shop. We got us a sandwich and went across the bay. We left the ferry at what was known as the ferry building and went over to where Aunt Annie was. She was staying in an apartment near Golden Gate Park. It didn't take long for them to find the place.
Wow.
So you just passed through that area.
Yeah.
We found Aunt Annie in reasonably good health, but we decided to spend the night in our cousin's apartment. They were younger people like we were, and they decided to take us out to a nightclub that night. I remember this quite well. All right. We went down to a place near Cliff House to a place they called Father Chicken's Coop, where we ate, danced, and had drinks and so forth. And the thing that kind of impressed me was that there was an upper story, one story above the dance floor, and we decided we wanted to dance. We'd slide down a slippery slide onto the dance floor and dance, and we'd have to walk back up the steps to our booth. The next morning, that sounds like a sweet place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So go have a little party, dance, go get your food upstairs, go down the slide. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The next morning, we left and brought Aunt Annie back to Gridley. She wasn't so sick, and she wasn't so sick that she may immediately die, so we stayed in Gridley for about 3 to 4 weeks. These cousins of mine that were great outdoorsmen, and they had a lot of parties for us. They'd take me and some other guys to the Feather River and go fishing for big salmon. And when I say big salmon, I mean big salmon. I'll tell you the kinds of outfits we used to catch them with. We'd use a bamboo pole about an inch at the butt, and we'd cut it off at about 10 feet long. The tip end of it was about as big as your thumb with wire guides on it and a big heavy line with a big heavy reel. We'd tie 2 big treble hooks on it. They must have been about 2.5 inches wide. We'd string them out about 6 inches down the wire leader, and tie a hunk of lead on the end of it as big as your thumb. We were fishing on a kind of rapid. Okay, so they had these special fishing gear. I don't know. I don't know if I understood that.
Did he
We'd throw
say
the,
something I could Google to like find out what he's talking about? Bamboo something?
it's just like a bamboo fishing pole, but it's something. And they would they like it sounds like they made them. Like I don't know if they like bought bamboo and then made these. I don't. Yeah.
That's cool.
Um. Um. So they were fishing on this kind of rapid. We'd throw the line out and pick up the slack as soon as you'd feel a hit on the bottom. You'd give it a jerk. We were snagging those big salmon about every third jerk. One of those fellows would weigh about 50 to 80 pounds.
What?
Holy moly. We caught a lot of them that weighed over 80 pounds. And I'll tell you, they really give us a thumping. They really didn't like to have the hook stuck in them. You might catch them in the belly or under the gills or in the tail. Oh, so they're just like hooking them, not like actually trying to catch them with bait. They were just like snagging them.
Wow.
We had a lot of fun. We weren't fishing for salmon. If we weren't fishing for salmon, we'd go duck hunting. I'd take my 12-gun shotgun with me. That's really where I got enthusiastic about hunting ducks. One day, Levon said, "Well, let's go bass fishing today." So we headed to Butte Creek with a boat and motor to troll for bass. There was Clarence, Levon, me, and Dad. On the way down, I said to Levon, "Is the bass season open now?" He said, "No, it's not open until we get there. We just open it up for 2 or 3 hours." So like cheating the line a little bit, I guess. But and we'd open the bass season. I'll tell you, we must have caught 50 of those big black bass that weighed about 1 or 2 pounds. When I got tired of catching bass, I'd sit up at the front of the boat and shoot ducks. As we turned the corner, the mallards would get out of the creek, and I must have killed 15 or 20 of them. We just had a real good time. Wow, sounds like a dream. Just fishing, like California prosperity of just endless food.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go duck hunting. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I've never done that before.
I want to share just real quick my tab here. I mapped out that trip just to see kind of what it looks like. So Wells is right here.
Oh wow.
So they drove past what's that place called? Wendover, Wells, and then that's where they talked to the guy and said it was quite a trip, but you could do it to Reno. That's the 300 miles.
So they got there all in one day, all the way to that.
Reno.
No, they made it past Reno, all the way down into
Donner Peak.
where that place was that they took Rose something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What was the place that motel was at? Roseville.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. California.
Oh, there it is. It's down lower towards Sacramento.
Oh yeah, Roseville. Yeah. Interesting. So this is where the mountains are real big, and then they came down into there, and Gridley. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because they went down to Roseville and then up to Gridley is what it said. Wow, that's amazing.
Cool. Yeah, and then San Francisco.
Wow. That must have been really cool to see the big city. That'd be like the first big city you probably has ever seen.
Yeah, that's true.
And back then it was probably small compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So they went bass fishing, and also duck hunting. They killed 15 to 20 ducks. Well, Aunt Annie didn't seem too awfully sick, and it looked like she was going to hang in for some time. So, Mother, Dad, and I headed home. We went back to Salt Lake for Christmas. Aunt Annie died the following March, and Dad went back on the train to attend her services.
Hmm.
Okay, ooh. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about raising turkeys.
Okay.
The following summer, after we'd been to Gridley, Dad decided we should try to raise some turkeys. He had a little chicken coop in the backyard there on Whitlock Avenue. I had bought 500 turkeys.
What?
What? Okay, and I got the brooder and the feeder and all the stuff. How do you that little place? We have that picture of that thing. How do they have room for 500 turkeys? We raised them.
Insult.
Yeah, in Salt Lake,
That's crazy.
in that backyard. It's like a half-acre plot or less. It's like a third of an acre plot, maybe even less. Maybe it could be even a quarter of an acre. Um, he raised them from chicks until they were big enough to move. Dad arranged with somebody down by Goshen to run his turkeys out on their property. So after they were about 6 weeks or 2 months old, we moved them to Goshen. The property was about 2 miles north of town. There was an old adobe house there that we fixed up so we could spend the summer raising turkeys. We spent all summer long down there and we had problems. Some of them got diseases and died, but we must have raised 250 to 300 turkeys out of the original 500. The cousins and friends and everyone came down there to at harvest time to help kill and pluck them. We took them over to Payson and sold them to the Utah Poultry Association. We put them on the open market. It was a month later before we got our money for them. You may not believe it, but this is a fact. We got 3 cents per pound for those turkeys, which is about 50 cents per bird. We spent the whole summer without making any money at all. So they just made the money like once they sold them way in November.
Yeah. Way later. I wonder if that was good money. If he's saying you might not believe it, like that was a lot, or it's hard to know.
Yeah, about 50 cents a bird. So 50 cents. So they made like 150 bucks or something.
No, 50 cents a pound, he said.
No, 3 cents a pound, 50 cents a bird.
Oh. So they made,
So,
yeah.
but 150, he said that they were making like $4 a day at the when they were building the freeway.
Yeah.
So maybe it was okay, but I guess they had to divide that up with a bunch of people. I don't know. This doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
While we were there, this turkey ranch, I became good friends with my cousin Oscar, Louie, Al, and especially Ray. Ray and I became really good friends. I remember he would talk with me while he was shooting his 30-06, practicing for the rifle matches. These boys were real riflemen, and they entered the state rifle matches each year. And most of the time, they would be quite well qualified to go back to Camp Perry and enter national competition. At one time, Ray, while at Camp Perry, defeated 2,200 men for first place in one competitive match. He set a new world record for shooting at 600 yards.
Whoa. Who is this to him?
His cousin. So, like,
Yeah.
we share a common great ancestor or something.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Also during the summer, Ray, and that's expensive to have, like, at least for us, like now, 30-06 ammo is not cheap. That'd be a lot of money to learn how
Yeah.
to shoot and shoot well. During this summer, Ray ordered me from the National Rifle Association an infield 30-06 Army rifle. We used it all the time, and I remodeled it a little and still have it. It was the rifle our son Ray now uses deer hunting. So Ray inherited this gun. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Our great uncle Ray. I don't know if I've ever met him. Probably. Holt, guess how much it cost him to get this gun?
What?
$7.50 delivered.
Yeah, things are so different.
That may not seem like much money now, but when I had only made about 50 cents a turkey, it seemed like that gun was a lot of money. So what? That's like only 15 turkeys. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's 15 whole turkeys.
that same year, 1931. My cousin Fred Hansen and Ernest Hansen and I got together and decided that we should have a Hansen reunion. This guy's got a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
He just listed like a lot of names for the number of cousins he's got. We got everything organized and found a place to hold the first Hansen reunion in the meadow north of Goshen, just in the field. This started the tradition of holding an annual Hansen reunions. The 50th was celebrated in 1981.
The 50th?
50th.
1981. Oh my gosh. We should do another one.
I wonder, yeah. So, like, mom might remember those.
Yeah, that's true.
I might tell you a story about the dog I had. About Christmas time, a lady had some beautiful pedigreed cocker spaniels for sale, and I went and looked at these little dogs. She said if I'd paper one of her, oh yeah, because they that's what they were, the papers. She said if I papered one of her rooms, she'd give me one. So I papered the room, and she gave me a little bluff colored cocker spaniel. He was a tiny thing, only 17 pounds, but beautiful. So I took her that summer and we were on the turkey ranch, and she just spent the whole summer living with me. We turned out to be really good friends. I named her Cleo.
Cleo, that's cute.
Yeah, that's pretty cute. She knew everything I was thinking, and I knew everything she was thinking. Her ears were so long that if her nose was down on the ground to do any hunting, she'd step on them.
Your mama's ears are so long.
Little Dumbo. And she'd fall down, so she'd step on her ears and tumble. But she turned out to be a real hunter. I never had a better hunting dog in my life. The year when the pheasant season opened, she caught her limit. She'd sneak up on them and hold them there until I got there. She actually caught 3 roosters.
Whoa.
Hey Cosmo, what are you doing? Wow. So they didn't even like shoot them. She just went and got them.
That's crazy.
Well, we can finish this page and then I think then how much. Ooh, well, there's some interesting stuff. Okay. Well, I'll read this next paragraph and we can decide if we want to keep going. When Lynn and Bert first came back from Longview, Washington, Lynn went down to Chester, where Milla's folks lived, and spent about a year there with them. During that year, I drove down there several times, and I think I even went down once on the train. I remember late in the fall one year, Lynn said to me, "If you'll stay and help us with these sugar beets, we'll go deer hunting, and you can go with Sandy, his father-in-law." So I stayed, and we put up these beets and went deer hunting in a wagon with a team. We went east out of Chester. Do you want to Chester, Utah, maybe? I don't know where that is. Up through Spring City. So Chester or Spring City. And what
Yeah.
is the Big Horseshoe?
Let's
A
see.
beautiful country. As near as I can remember, we were the only hunters in that canyon during the opening of the deer hunt. However, I only saw 3 deer, and they were all does. The gun I was using then was a little 25-20 that the family had acquired through the years, and I don't know if I had been able to kill one with it, even if I'd seen a deer. So maybe it's I don't know, a little like 22 almost.
Yeah. Looks like Chester is just north of Ephraim, so like west of or east of Nephi and down a bit.
Oh, okay. So not too far away from where they had all been.
Yeah.
Well, let's read the next page. This is kind of interesting. Oh, we could make well. Oh yeah. Well, we're 2 pages away from a more official break, but let's read this next page and then we'll call it good. How about that?
Yeah.
But a year later, the same thing happened to me. This time, Lynn, Sandy, and I drove up from Mayfield. This was beautiful country and a lot of deer up there. We hiked up into the higher country in the morning. The second Sunday morning, a big buck ran right out in front of me. I had this little gun and took a whap at him, and I hit him in the lower shoulder. He jumped up in the air and ran around the corner, and someone else killed him. So that was the size of my first 2 years of deer hunting. I didn't get any deer, but I did get a shot at this one big buck. I think it was the following year, probably 1931, that cousin Ray Hansen invited me to go with him to the Scipio Range to deer hunt there with him and his wife Pearl. I'm not sure, but my dad may have been with me on this trip. I had a 30-06 that I had the 30-06 that Ray had bought when I was on the turkey ranch. So I climbed way up in the canyon on a big flat rock. I saw a 3-point buck across the draw and I killed him. That was the first deer I'd ever killed. I have gone deer hunting each year since then, and I've taken quite a few deer in those experiences, and I thoroughly enjoy every deer hunt. Most of the time, the whole family went. All my boys go now, and we would make a big deal out of out of the deer hunts.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I think Grandpa and Jeff, or at least Jeff, still goes.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about what we were doing making a living. Bert and Bill and I were living at home with Mother and Dad. Bert had a job on the streetcars, and Bill had bought into an automobile used parts department that is a wrecking yard. It was pretty well established. I was pretty well established as a paper hanger throughout the city and was taking quite a few paper hanging jobs. Some of them were pretty good sized. I was doing apartment houses that had 45 to 50 apartments in them. This was they were new and being built around town, and I was doing pretty well. About this time, Lynn came back from San Pete with his wife and kids, and he jobbed around town here quite a bit too. He came over to where I was hanging papers in the apartments and went to work with me hanging paper. This continued for several years. Lynn bought a home on Coatesville Avenue. I think it was about 270 Coatesville, from Mr. Frank Bowers, who was a building contractor. A few months later, he was kind of getting behind his payments, and Mr. Bowers asked him what the problem was, and he said he didn't have any work. So Mr. Bowers told him, I'll give you some work. You pay me half of the rent, and I'll give you half in cash until we catch up. That started quite a union with Lynn and the Bauer Construction Company. They became really good friends, and Lynn developed into a painting contractor and started right out and did really well.
Wow.
Dude, that's crazy. Like, if nowadays people would be like, yeah, you're just evicted. Sorry.
Yeah. What's the problem? Okay, you need a job here. Let's work it out. Like, how
Yeah,
nice.
like,
Same guy, or same as the paper hanger, how LeRoy did a very great job, and then that guy kind of took him under his wing.
yeah. Yeah, people were really, I'm sure people are still very generous, but that's very generous of them to do that in those situations.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, that was some pretty exciting stories.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Next, we'll hear about, what's his name? One of his Floyd Hansen is one of his cousins and becomes a famous wrestler. It's the next story.
I think I've heard stories about him.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I love. It'd be fun to get into hunting and do some ducks and stuff. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and have some venison. That would be great.
Yeah, I love duck too. Like I would really like that.
That would be great.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear about his dog. She sounded cute. What was her name again? Cokie or something?
Cleo. Clio.
Cleo. Cool.
So September 12th is where we got to on this right here. So awesome. Well, we'll do it again soon.
Yep. Sounds good.